Hi, how are you? Welcome. We're back here today at the chapel doing a commentary on Johanna, who is a wonderful, wonderful woman who lives in a very twisted environment. I mean, I didn't go there with any tools, anything. I had no equipment. I just basically relied off the guys in my...
How was your equipment?
You and Alan, yeah. And that was kind of nutty. It was kind of nutty, and so we're gonna just get into what happened, and we're planning on going back and doing a full scale and bringing my equipment in, and I'm going to really just get in there and clean it out. So what are you gonna do when you're there? What's your plan?
I'm gonna concentrate on Angie. Been in contact with the daughter of the house, and we had a really weird encounter in the kitchen, whatever that was. I wouldn't say it was a
exorcism, but it was definitely there.
I hate using that word.
Exactly.
So
we're pulling out negative.
It was a demonic oppression.
I just feel like it was negative energy. Whatever way you want to define it, this girl Angie is a sweetheart, but she's got this darkness surrounding her to the point for where Scott had to physically come over, hold her hand, and say, "If whatever's in you, come to me." And she immediately felt better, but she still has, issues there. There's an underlying layer effect, but the focus is on the family. It's just really bringing them peace, because the space that they live in has so many layers of history, and I truly believe that what's there is many different things. You have the poet, you have the sculptor, you have the proprietor, you have the Native American aspect, and then you have the Underground Railroad on top of it. So when you put all that together, that's a lot of...
Now, to you, is the dark energy the proprietor?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe it's...
Johanna's sister sent me a photo. I don't know if you've seen that.
I did, and I showed Alan.
I saw it too.
Yeah.
And they believe it was me because it was a gentleman in a dark hat. And for some reason, I didn't realize I wore my cowboy hat the entire investigation. I didn't mean to, I just did.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me after looking at that photo, but it wasn't me in the photo. But that is, in my mind's eye, what I sensed when I went in there, especially hearing the footsteps going down the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And when they hear a darker male entity walking around in there, that's definitely what I saw in my mind's eye. So that is what I'm focusing on when I go back. I feel like it's got to be like a confrontation.
Oh yeah, it's like straight on.
I'm going to concentrate on that.
Yeah.
You guys can concentrate on everything else.
I came in there with a complete understanding that I just didn't want to rock it. I didn't want to rock the boat. I kind of wanted to let it see me see it, and just assess it, and then watch to see what happens after the fact. Johanna had this cat. I can't remember her cat's name, but he had a puncture mark, and then the poor animal just a couple days ago was taken to the vet. It's convulsing, spasming. It actually attacked her practically, this cat.
Yeah.
So I think that the animals are also being affected by it.
Well, whatever's there is fighting back from what I did.
Well, he did a blessing. He went over
the house. They
holy
requested
water.
me to do that, so I did what I was trained to do.
Yeah.
By a priest, so I don't want to have anybody go, "Oh, you don't know what you're doing." I'm not fully ordained or anything like that. I have no credentials, but I have been taught the generic basics of what to do, and I'm getting more training now that I've gone back to that person, because when I told him what's going on, that's why he wants to remain anonymous and secret. But
I know this priest. The whole time we've been discussing this. Feel like I went to the church today, and I was like, that's good, because even though you're not traditionally formalized into that organization, those rites and rituals are still, powerful in their own right.
Well, I was brought up Roman Catholic.
Well, yeah, so
it hits me. It's what I'm.
Yeah, I was brought up
with
Catholic, Baptist. I didn't know what I wanted to be. My mother, actually, you've met her. You just met them. You guys just recently met my mother, and she told me to choose my own religion, which is unheard of. You didn't know that?
I think they're all the same.
Yeah, but she's like, choose your own, whatever's going to make you a good person. The goal is to go back on the 14th, which is actually a really powerful moon. And what we plan on doing, which is even more hard.
You love putting me in these situations.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a full moon or a new moon. I can't remember. Don't quote me.
So we'll be having werewolf attacks.
And
on footage as well.
Johanna used to raise wolves.
Well, I do also, that's the other thing I wanted to concentrate. I wanted to get there earlier in the day and concentrate on the woods, but I actually want to be able to see where I'm going. It's very dark behind their house, no electrical lights.
The goal is the cycle. I call it life cycles, the cycle of the house and the life of it. I can't, to be honest, if I could be at a space for 3 days and do nothing, that's usually my first technique, is to do nothing for 3 days, just be with the family. If something happens, great. If it doesn't, whatever. But just let it settle. Like, so I told Johanna I might have to move in for a week, you know, and just be there with them and just really to understand it. But if I'm there for about a day, and that's where we're going to go up the night before, stay overnight. We're going to have several teams coming in throughout the day, so it's not like we're all going to be there all at the same time at once. We're all going to be there at different times of the day, watching it, monitoring it. There's a huge number of people coming that day because we're trying to span from Saturday evening to Monday morning, pretty much is what we're going to be doing. So we're talking 2 solid days at this one specific location. She has a lot of land, she has a lot of house, and a lot of history, and a lot of activity. So the goal is to be able to bring in everyone who is talented. We're like the superheroes, I call it, of ghost hunting in my sense. Like, we're all have our own twist, you know? And by bringing each person in, and I actually am looking for a paranormal group who does the actual, you know, thermal imaging, that, you know, I want to be able to bring a thermal imager in as well. I think that would be so amazing. So I tapped in a few people, and if they're not available, if you want to be a thermal imager on that day, let me know. I would love it. I would love it. I'm addicted to thermal imaging. It's my new, like, my new white whale. I want a thermal imager. So Christmas is coming, everyone. Actually, I want it before Christmas, but I'll wait. But after watching Booth Brothers, Soul Catcher, and oh my gosh, they're my babies. They're so awesome. But I love them more now because of the thermal imager. I like taking the skeptics after they talked all their trash and then putting them in a really twisted location and watching them twitch. I think it's funny. I really do.
But they didn't experience anything.
They didn't experience anything. Afterward, they change. So there's skeptics out there that want to challenge me. Please. Please. I have a few spots for you.
I would love to take a skeptic to Johanna. Just leave them there for one whole day.
By themselves with no lights on.
Because I went in there with you and I was like, okay, this is a cool house, but I'm not really, you know,
yeah,
nothing's going to happen. And then as we were driving up in the car, you're like, well, what do you hope happens tonight? And I'm like, oh, you know what I've never had happen? I wish something physical would happen. Push me, hit me, something, touch
tangible.
me. I've never had that happen.
Also, I would like to add something too.
Yeah.
Like the last 2 times I went to Johanna's house, the first thing that happened to me, like I was following my GPS. My GPS, it told me like arriving destination on left. That's what my GPS told me.
Yeah, your GPS
but,
is nutty.
Johanna's house is on the right.
Yeah.
So obviously there's something that was messing with my GPS or not, because my GPS is pretty good about that. It's never really done that before. I went to Johanna's house. It always, if the destination's on the right, it tells me destination right. But this is the first time, like, it told me Johanna's house is on the left instead of the right.
Exactly. I remember you were saying that to me, and you're like, well, look to this way, because the GPS is going to tell us something. I was just like, what are you talking about? And sure enough, it did.
Now, also, like, I remember we had an interesting experience going to Johanna's house last time when we were going there. Like, Scott, do you want to talk about some of it? Like, I remember remember how the one road was closed, we had to go down, that my GPS was...
Well, to get back to what I was saying for 1 second, that when you were asking me what I would want, I wanted a physical altercation or something.
You were actually saying that on the way on the road.
And then...
if you think about it.
When we were at the house, as I'm blessing the house, something scratched me on my back. Alan got it on my film. I don't think it's on your footage because your batteries died. But there's a welt on my back that everyone in the kitchen saw when I came in.
You know what? It's funny because when you were saying that, that's when we were driving up.
And that's when
all that other stuff. So they correlate. Your story about being bit, but you were saying it as we're driving, which was, I'm not sure if it was smart on our part, because you were kind of like telling it, look, before I get there, this is what I want you to do. You kind of...
Maybe I wasn't really
Thinking
looking
that.
in. Yeah,
I look at it like that.
I was just going in to just
See.
You know, I've never even been to that part of PA before, so I was just kind of taking in everything.
Yeah.
And then Alan said he knew where he was going, and then he was going to turn down the one road, and then all of a sudden, it's all dark, there's no lights, and then all of a sudden there's this big barrier and detour. So then we had to go down this really weird road that looked like something out of the Sleepy Hollow movie with Johnny Depp.
I don't know how you were driving that, Alan.
And we were going really slow.
And you had to because of the deer.
Well, I was waiting for like
deer.
A wolf or Bigfoot to
Yeah,
come walking
you
out
have
because
to.
it looked like
deer.
where it would happen.
Deer.
And I remember saying something like, "This is how horror movies start."
Yeah, you did. And Alan's like, "Okay, road closed."
But we
Right
found
after you
it
said
fairly
that.
quickly after that. It didn't take us too much on a detour, but it was definitely made us all start thinking. It was like it got us start to prepping, and now our brains shifted into this, wait, what are we getting into here?
That's the first thing I think of when I go to locations like that is how am I getting out? Like, what am I going to do if I'm stuck in this bitch?
All of that firmly made me believe, especially when we were walking around outside, especially out back, it's not just what's in the house
It's what it's around.
and the land is
the history
like
of
a
the area.
living entity in itself.
Yeah, it is.
Especially the woods, the war drums coming from the woods out back.
I was like, oh, hell no.
I really was hoping that was something else, but when I went back, even the father and the daughter on the porch both heard it.
When I think of the drums, I think of the Poconos, and I think of this house that I did. I was like, say 15 or 16 years old. I had to be. Maybe older. Maybe 17. And it was kind of like the drums. Whereas if you walked anybody who walked into the yard at night never came back. And all you saw were lights dancing. And it's still up there. And the day after I went, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I have to show the people the dancing lights. The army was there. And they shut the house down and kicked the person who lived there out. So I was like, wow, that's kind of hot. And so, but this place was the weirdest because when you walk in it, you go down, but you don't know. And that's the first thing I thought of those woods. I'm like, if you walk in those woods, where are you going? Are you going up, going down? The terrain looks like you would need like some really hardcore gear to get through it.
That's why I want to go in the daytime. I just need to see it.
Well, you're still going to have to gear up, I think, during the day. Like, if you're ever going to go in the woods after the other Highland adventure and flip-flops, never again.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did. I'm used to it.
Does sound like the door?
Yeah, I'm used to it. Stuff's been going on. Like, they're just, they're excited. Mama's home. They miss me, and
We're
I
in
miss
a haunted
them.
location filming.
We're actually in my haunted, lovely location.
And it just sounded like the front door just opened.
Yeah, I do weddings
Apparently
in an
that's
18th
normal.
century space that was built in 1733. And
Well, we're filming right next to the corner of where
this is the.
I saw someone standing.
Yeah, well,
and then
it's funny because
a woman did too.
in this corner, a lot of clients will come in and see somebody standing in the room, and then they come back and they're like, "Where'd that person go?" That kind of thing. I'm always in haunted spaces. But this wasn't on purpose. It just happened to happen. And when I first started the business, I was here for like 80 hours a week. You couldn't get me out of the house. And so they've missed me. I've been kind of running around, and so they're all visiting, saying hello. So if you hear something or catch an EVP, that'd be kind of hot too. But it's normal. It's very much normal.